Thanks for watching this video. This is Pascal from EMP Reviews, and today I have a guest, Art Medina, who also has his own movie review podcast. And what's your podcast called?
Well, we have a podcast that we're sort of like suspending at the moment, but we're gonna get into it again as soon as we sort of like find the schedule to get it back together. But we called it Why We Drink .xyz. So it's Why We Drink is the name of the podcast. It's generally just a get together of friends in what we lovingly call Mike's Famous Kitchen, where we just gather around his kitchen and just record. And we had you as a guest one time.
That's right.
When we were reviewing Alita.
I'm the only one who liked it.
It's one of those things where we got together because we had all seen the movie, and we just said, well, let's talk about that was the Robert Rodriguez movie, Alita. And which was a James Cameron collaboration.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. I went over at my friend Miguel's place, and what I do with him is whenever he takes care of my computers, I just buy him something. So we watched Alita. He was in love with it, so but at least, I mean, I don't know if you read the manga or if you watched the anime from the 90s. You didn't do any of those, did you know?
I did not know. In fact,
that's probably why I liked it too.
But but that's one of those things that kind of like connects you and me as part of the same generation, where we watched the cartoons that we sort of grew up had like this like Bugs Bunny attitude, but then we started to get into more adult-oriented cartoons, and that was through anime.
Yeah.
It was like, I remember Star Blazers and realizing what a difference the animation was between that and the stuff that I saw on Saturday morning cartoons. Yeah. Like, this was no Scooby-Doo. This was like, and this was Japanese art.
Yeah.
Which, that type of animation, the Star Blazers type of animation, carried over up until 2000 with, I say, Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah.
Which I think was the last time that like that type of animation was sort of like really well used. Then afterwards, everything started to go into the computer-generated stuff, which it kind of like lessens the anime.
Yeah.
It doesn't cheapen it. It just makes it more glossy, but yet the tradition of the actual animation that I admire was from literally 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird, but that's how it is.
You should probably watch. I'll try to put the link for this in my YouTube video.
You shared with me the Evangeline, I think it was. I think that
Evangeline.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
No, but what I was referring to is there's a channel called Toy Galaxy.
Really?
And they talk a lot about the bringing of older Japanese anime into America, and as much as you liked it and as much as you felt it was more adult, they cut out a lot of the stuff.
Oh, no doubt. Oh, yes, I'm aware of that.
Because what's acceptable over in Japan for kids is too, I guess, aggressive.
Yes,
for at least what the marketing departments here in the U.S. feels. They have to cut it out. So unfortunately, some of the narratives get cut out, and then eventually the direct translations are made, and you have to go seek that out on Blu-ray and all that stuff. But anyway, so
sure.
We're getting off topic.
And we're getting off topic, yeah.
Yeah, I was, while you were trying to come here, I was trying, and I couldn't find it, but I was trying to find the shot of the outside shot of the diner that the Riddler was in when they arrested him, because it looked like an Edward Hopper painting.
Exactly, which is a famous Edward Hopper. It's called Nighthawks, and it's hanging at the Art Institute here in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
It's one of those paintings that when you come across it and you realize, oh, this is here in my hometown, and you're looking at it and you kind of like study it, because let's face it, everybody that we know has seen this, but yet they can't place it, but they definitely can place the mood of themselves when they see that painting, because it's very atmospheric. And I think that you're bringing this up because of the shot in the Batman movie that we're going to discuss, which absolutely, when I saw that, I said, wow, that's Edward Hopper. Right. And it got to the point where I started to realize that whoever was in charge of the production of the Batman, which was Matt Reeves and Warner Brothers, Matt Reeves is one of us. He's one of those like filmmakers that I'm 100% certain grew up with the stuff that you and I grew up admiring in terms of films and style and influence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, because I saw the last thing that he did, that I'll look him up while we're talking about the War of the Planet of
the Apes, right? Exactly.
That was just mind-blowing.
Yeah, he directed
like, wow.
the 2 sequels directly from the first sequel, which was The Rise of the Planet of the Apes, I think. And so then it was Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and then finally War of the Planet of the Apes. And the last 2 entries, Matt Reeves directed. And if you remember it, that was really beautifully directed. It was like there were moments in that movie where I go, holy cow, Matt Reeves is a serious filmmaker.
Yeah.
In one particular shot, and I think it was in the second movie, the second sequel, the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, there's a tank turret that sort of like just follows as it goes completely 360 degrees and sees the entire battle.
Okay.
And it's literally just this stationary camera that just follows the turret as it goes around the entire battle.
Okay.
Which I've never seen before in my life. When I saw that shot, I was like...
This is part 2, right?
Yeah, this was part 2. Yes, exactly.
I'll have to look that up, and I'll put some screenshots in the video if I can find it.
Oh, you will. Yeah. Trust me, you will.
Because the second one, I cannot watch the first movie. I don't know what it is. I just don't like it. But the second one, I started to see, okay, this is getting serious, and Gary Oldman was in it and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then that scene when the ape shot those 2 guys,
Mm-hmm.
cow, And then the third one, I was like, in spite of the fact that it was brilliant that they kept the main character clean, and by that I mean he went up to kill the antagonist.
Right, which was...
The guy killed himself already.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so there was, in my thought is that by doing that, then you don't see the guy that you're rooting for do a villainous thing by just murdering somebody, which is great. And then I thought it was a little too convenient that there was an avalanche.
Yeah.
But minor gripes.
Sure.
This is a great movie and stuff. So, but okay. So last segue, because we gotta start discussing a movie. There's a movie, and I'll mention it. I don't have it in my mind now, but I'll mention it when I put the video together. There's a movie that recreates a ton of Edward Hopper paintings.
Really?
On screen, yeah. It's very low budget, not maybe low budget, but low distribution. It's not a major. But they recreated all of his paintings in the movie.
He's got like that type of there's one particular painting that he does where there's like a young lady at a movie theater and she's the usheress, the one that seats you down.
Yeah.
But you can tell that she's a blonde, like wannabe starlet, and
no
exactly.
Okay.
And it's one of those. Once again, it's a mood. It creates a mood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like some vibrant colors, and I do recall that's the kind of style he had. And
very rich colorist is what he was.
So okay, I was when we first started talking about the shot, the Nighthawk shot in the movie. It's as if David Fincher painted it, basically. With the rain and the darkness and everything. And the lightings are just beautiful and stuff. But and then I just watched Seven a couple times maybe last month, and I'm like, man, it still holds up.
It does.
And then they grabbed the guy from Highlander. What's the?
Christopher Lambert, the actor.
Grabbed him, and they grabbed the guy who had sex with that prong thing.
Mm-hmm.
The guy at the nightclub that was They made a movie with the 2 of them called Resurrection.
Really?
I think it's called. And they were trying to do Seven again. And they
no kidding.
Fell short. 1999.
Yeah.
It's worth one watch, but it's like, okay, you want to do this, you got to grab David Fincher. This isn't.
Yeah, and you know what? It's kind of weird, but I think that in the 90s, I think that the Seven was an attempt to kind of like make their own version of the movie Silence of the Lamb.
Yeah.
But then eventually, like even the French, they did a movie called Crimson River.
Okay.
That is like their version of Silence of the Lamb, but it actually plays a lot more like their own version of Seven.
Okay.
And I think the movie came out at around the same time that Seven came out. I think.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, it stars Jean Reno, the guy who played the professional.
Okay,
and Vincent Cassel. who was married to.
Oh, yeah.
Trust me, if you see this movie, you will love it. Yes, you will love it. I'll lend you my copy of it. I got it at home.
I've always been envious of Cassell because not only was he married to
Monica Bellucci. Yeah.
Between her and Eva Green, those are my two favorite actresses in the world.
Very underrated actresses, actually, too, in my opinion.
And then I just watched
Penny Dreadful?
No, a French movie by the guy who did Enter the Void.
That dude. I know which
Monica
one.
Bellucci.
Irreversible.
Irreversible.
Oh, that's a brutal film. Yes, we talked about this.
People were walking out of the theater.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
And then of course, like Cassell and Monica Bellucci are naked. In
Yeah, they're in the movie.
And I was like, holy cow.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the movie is just so tragic. Right, exactly. Oh, it's terrible.
And then, they're grabbing a woman into the hospital, and he's like saying "Mon amour, mon amour," which is my love. He's falling apart because she's been beaten and stuff.
Oh my God! Yeah, I know.
That director, the guy practically invented nihilism, man. His last movie, The Climax, beautiful, insane, like elaborate dance numbers,
Mm-hmm.
And then the spoiler alert. At the end of the movie, practically everybody kills themselves. Drugs.
Wow.
And this guy gets locked outside of the place they were in, freezes to death. I mean, it's just like a child is dead. I mean, it's just.
But you definitely did mention what I think is his one particular masterpiece that I think nobody really talks about, which was Enter the Void, which is a really weird movie. It's hard to describe.
Yeah.
And
it's amazing.
Yes.
It's a visual marvel.
It is.
But you want to kill yourself.
Yeah. You sort of like say, I think my life is meaningless when you see that movie. It's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like we did. Okay, so we mentioned Blade Runner, and like Blade Runner 2049, because in the podcast that I did with Mario and Ernest, I had to correct Ernest because the first Blade Runner is so stylistic that some people may not even recognize that it's an active detective story.
It is, yeah.
And in Blade Runner 2049, it's totally is a detective story, and so is Batman here.
Yeah.
This is probably, as far as I can tell, with all the Batman movies, he's a true detective in this one.
In this one, he definitely does put the practice of what he has started for himself. And that includes being a violent man, being sort of also a very careful man, because he's dealing with people that really don't like him. And that means the cops.
Yeah.
Like the cops around him kind of like resent him.
Yeah.
They hate him because he's messing around with, if they're corrupted, they're no longer on the take with whoever they were on the take one. And not only that, but this other detective who is not Commissioner Gordon, he's Detective Gordon in the movie.
Yeah.
Because there's another guy that's a commissioner. Throughout this entire new movie called The Batman, Commissioner Gordon is not Commissioner Gordon, he is Detective Gordon. And he vouches for the Batman, which is why when you see him letting the Batman into this crime scene, it's like, why the hell is this freak here?
Yeah,
and he says,
his reaction was realistic.
And he says, hey, he's with me, which means that as much as he is an uncorruptible, untouchable man of law, he is still on the bad side of all of those cops in that room.
Yeah.
And for him vouching for somebody who is not a cop, that's just the cop saying, you are a traitor to us.
Yeah.
And that's like balls. I love the character of Gordon in this flick.
It's Batman's entrance into the movie. It was just great. Yeah.
And it's kind of weird. I mean, but you see, the thing is that we have to think cinematically here, because there's a moment where you see Gordon enter the crime scene and you see him from the back. And he's constantly looking over his shoulder while other cops are all over the entire place as he's walking through.
And they're reacting to the camera, basically.
And then the next shot you see is of the Batman. And so you never see the Batman following Gordon in one shot. You get these two separate shots. And essentially, it's like two entities.
Yeah.
Where one is taking the law in his own hands, and the other one is essentially like, hey, I'm trying to do this in order to solve this. And the only person that can solve it is the guy behind me, because the criminal is giving him a message. Remember, there's to the Batman. Yes, which is like, oh man, which means that when the movie begins, a whole long history has already passed, and we have to put the pieces together, turning us, the audience, into the detectives.
Yeah. Well, it's Yeah, they did the good decision of not retreading over the parents getting killed and all that kind of stuff. Granted, this is an origin-ish
Sure.
of Batman. It's kind of like the one of the things that I cannot understand. But then again, we're talking about Warner Brothers, so they have done a lot of stupid
They have,
decisions.
yes, which I agree
The
with.
best studio they have ever worked with, even with the, I personally, even with Mask of the Phantasm and all the other animated features, that Batman, that Japanese Batman, I'll show you the trailer where there's a giant. I don't know if you've seen the.
I saw it.
And that is like, I'm speechless with that one. We can make a video on how weird that whole thing is. But the best studio that I've seen him work with, specifically also with a serial kind of thing. TV show was called The Batman with Matt Mignola.
Yes, I know exactly which one you're talking about. It was a CW Saturday morning or sometimes Sunday afternoon series. And it was very. I think there was only like I'm gonna guess maybe only 20 episodes because
something like that.
Because each season was like 10 episodes, and I think it only ran for 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And the animation was really
beautiful.
It was extremely stylish, and I loved the take that they did on this show. And you can tell that the show was progressively growing to introduce other characters. Like, I don't know, eventually, because I remember that they had the guy who's like the Professor Pig.
Yeah.
But that was the one guy that they remember being like a major villain in the show. But then the other times it was like Anarchy, I think, was one of the other villains. But I never got around to seeing somebody that was. Oh, they did have the Joker.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. They did have the Joker.
And the thing with the Joker, and I don't think the fans like this.
No,
much, the Joker had green dreads.
Yeah.
He was barefooted.
Yes,
and he had with a straight jacket. And he was doing martial arts.
Yes, and he had this voice that was done by the voice actor Michael.
Is it the black guy?
Yes, the black guy from. Yeah, he's been on a ton of stuff, and he just recently did a live a scene in a show called Better Things that I saw on FX this past Monday.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm shocked that
they did I remember. I used to go to Best Buy on a regular basis, and I used to see this Batman cartoon on DVD from that style, and I looked at it and I'm like, okay, this isn't an episode of the show, and I didn't buy it because I didn't see any advertising for it. I didn't know what the hell it was, and one day I just said, screw it. I bought it, and it's Batman versus Dracula.
Oh yeah.
It's by the studio, but it looks like they got a bigger budget.
Yes.
So the animation was better.
Yes.
And the story is fantastic. I've never heard anybody talk about it. I don't understand that.
No, in fact, I know a little bit about that. So supposedly those that series of film, the Batman versus Dracula, was supposed to be part of the series, the Batman. Okay. But then they canceled the Batman, but still they had this like long treaded and so the Warner Brothers animators basically says, well, if you give us money, we'll just complete it and make it into this long like Warner Brother animation movie. Yeah, which they did, and to their credit, it's sort of like I think was served as the last episode of the show.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was a good movie. I remember seeing it and thinking to myself, that's genius.
I have no idea why Warner Brothers stopped working with that studio.
Well,
because the other ones, I mean, they're good enough, but I mean, I've seen there was, I can't remember what the name. I'll put it up once I find it, but there's one animated film where the Joker brutalizes the hell out of Robin. And then there's all the DC movies, the DC Universe movies. I can't stand the animation on all of them. I love the fact that the fans like it, and all that stuff, but I just don't like that stuff, man. I don't know. But anyway, so next topic, the car chase scene was cool. It's one of those things where I wish we could have seen more action with the Batmobile, but it's one of those things where it's kind of like the action scenes in the first Crow movie. It's like it's used intelligently.
Yes, I think I know what your point is. Okay, so this is the reason why I think that Matt Reeves was influenced, and I think I know what movie specifically influenced him with this car chase. Because obviously, if you and I, let's say, we're directing a movie, a feature film, and the script says that here comes a car chase, there's car chases that have been done to death.
Yeah.
So how do we make it better, maybe more dangerous and whatever. So, if you ever see a movie like The French Connection or the movie Live and Die in L.A., they were both done by the same director, William Friedkin, the Chicago director, William Friedkin. And each time he made those car chase movies, he says, there's traffic, there's people on the streets, there's congestion. A car chase, you're always going to get stuck in traffic. You're going to have to hope that you make it before the truck gets in your way, that kind of thing. So if you watched, like I said, Live and Die in L.A. and French Connection, and he also did a movie called Jade, where there is a car chase. Right, I know it's a terrible movie, but they go through a car chase and they go through a parade.
That's right.
Yes, and so the people in the parade are like, "What the hell are you doing?" Beating up on the cars that tries to pass by. Yes.
David Caruso, that's right.
I know that's a terrible movie, but it's a great chase. But the thing is that now that you watch the Batman, the Matt Reeves version, he basically puts traffic in there, and the Joker goes through the wrong, into the highway, going the wrong way.
Yeah.
So, and then there's a huge pileup and a huge explosion, and then when the Batman hits, and by the way, spoilers, if the Batman hits the Penguin in the rear, you essentially see. Then it cuts into the inside of the car, and you see it all flip over.
Now he did. Matt Reeves did. Let Me In.
Yes, which had the same shot. Exactly. And he also did Cloverfield, which the whole crash of the helicopters happens from the inside, obviously. But you see, he did it that way, and he did it because it's he had to break the dynamic. And I think that the car chase in this one makes it seem more real because the Batmobile's a muscle car.
Yeah.
The luxury car that the Penguin is driving is also a sports car, almost things, but it's you have a mobster who it's he doesn't mind putting the metal to and then hitting whoever he has to hit in order to get away from the Batman.
Yeah,
it's I like that sequence. It made for what it was.
It was cool.
It was cool. Matt Reeves really made a cool movie. Actually, I think.
All right, so I'm not. How'd you feel about the removable chest logo as a knife?
Now here's the thing. I'm gonna go ahead and just talk about the design of his armor because I think this was kind of genius the way he looked.
Bulletproof and everything.
He looked like this kind of mentally deranged guy who thinks that he can put on all this armor and it will protect him. And the only way that you can see whether or not it can be protected is if you try and beat the shit out of him. But what's gonna happen is that you forget that he's got lead under those knuckles. He's got blades in those. He can kick my ass. He's got a. And you would think that, you know what I do? I grab his cape and then no, you can't. I'm sorry. You don't understand. You were talking to him. You were basically trying to go up against a man who has put armor all over himself.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I'm sorry, but you're not a cosplayer. This is a guy who's mentally deranged or who's got an illness that we'll talk about because it's part of the movie plot. But the thing is that when you see somebody seriously trying to protect themselves and to be a vigilante, you don't want to fuck with that person because that person might be, deranged. But yet, the design of his armor was kick-ass, and the thing where the bat symbol was a knife. I loved it. I said that is actually pretty cool. Did you know that there is in the comic books and the lore of Batman, he always made sure that his chest plate was a target because that's where his most strongest armor was, and so he would dare villains to shoot him and the bat symbol. And essentially, this way he would know that, it's hey, when they want to take me out, this is where you shoot me. Shoot me in the heart. And it's kind of like the bat symbol is his heart. So him being able to take the knife out of there, it's kind of like for me when I saw it, I was thinking he's taking out his heart. And his heart is sharp and dangerous, and the only person that can handle it is himself, because anybody else trying to handle his heart, no, it's trouble. And that includes the character of Catwoman, who essentially says, hey, you want to get together? And he doesn't give her an answer, but that's because both of them are fucked up, and there's no reason they should be together.
I mean, it looks good. As a motif for the whole new design of the.
If you were in charge of the production and let's say the design, would you have given it that?
No.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what I didn't like about it, but I'd rather have him take it out of his utility belt or whatever.
Actually, somebody said that to me. They said, he's got all this other stuff around him. Why does he have to use the one thing that's kind of like a gimmicky thing?
Exactly. Yeah.
Which I understand, but you know what? At the same time, there was a time when I think I read that he had made that out of the parts of the gun that killed his parents.
That's true. I did hear that.
And I don't know if that was actually that wasn't established in the story. It just was a knife, and that's all it was.
It
right?
could be if they come out with a 4-hour version. Maybe it's in there. Who knows? But okay, so I was just like Ben Affleck. I was kind of worried about the casting of Robert Pattinson because it's weird because he definitely seems thin, but then they make sure to show you that he has some bulk.
Yes.
At one point, so. And with the Batman suit on, I guess it's acceptable. It's acceptable after a while.
He definitely was just really skinny. I'm sorry, but he just was a very skinny Batman.
Too,
yeah. He didn't have the bulk that, let's face it, we've seen in other Batmans, But even the thinnest Batman, which up to this point was Val Kilmer, he still looked muscular, but that was mostly the molding of the uniform that he had.
Yeah.
But yet this one, you could almost see that there was no muscle underneath the armor.
Yeah, that's true.
But yet you sort of accepted it because it was a good looking, he let's face it, he's a good looking guy.
Yeah.
So he pulled off the look.
So it, I guess it's something you just get over. I
guess.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because like Ben Affleck, I mean, the guy went down to like 6% body fat.
So can I ask you a question? So let me ask you, what was your opinion of the Ben Affleck Batman?
Just like Henry Cavill. Great casting, good acting, just bad narrative.
Wow. Okay, so if you had to put, would you prefer, let's say, the Batman that Ben Affleck was in the warehouse scene in Batman versus Superman when he beats up all those people and he does, or would you prefer like the Batman of the Robert Pattinson movie that we just saw? Which of the two of them would you prefer to see in an action movie? If you had to give him...
Well, if I answer this correctly, I think... we'll discuss the ending, but...
Sure.
I think this Batman replaced by Ben Affleck will be fantastic with a better ending. Yeah, basically.
Yes, I have to say that the Ben Affleck Batman was great.
Great, yeah.
This one was good, but I sort of wanted the Ben Affleck violence in this one. I wanted that.
Well, that's a thing that maybe I forgot all of my notes here because I made so many notes. But the goons that he beat up, I wish we could have seen more of them.
Okay, you're talking about in the new movie.
Yeah.
So let's.
They're kind of like almost like a clan of the clown of the Joker.
They reminded me of the Warriors from the movie The Warriors. Yeah, remember how they would because these gangs didn't exist in New York in the time when all these gangs were in New York. They just were exaggerated for the sake of a movie. So they said, let's paint them with the white faces. Yeah. And eventually the story goes that real gangbangers in New York saw the movie The Warriors and says, we should start looking like that.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so anyways, jump 40 years later, they make the Batman with Matt Reeves. And Matt Reeves, I guess, says, hey, let's have the goons look like the Warriors from the 1979 movie The Warriors.
Yeah.
And let's have Batman beat them up. That scene at the start of the movie won me over.
Yeah.
I loved it because when Batman comes out, these guys are facing a guy who is so dangerous that when he beats up the first guy and he says, I'm vengeance, I was like, oh my God, yes, that's what I've always wanted from Batman. Yeah. Now, let me tell you a really quick story. When I was a little boy, I remember that my father gave me a Batman comic book, but the Batman comic book was obviously the 1970s golden era where the Batman was drawn with the blue shading and the gray shading and the yellow symbol.
Okay, yeah.
And he had the really long pointy ears. But in the story that I was reading, and I was trying to read in Spanish and I really couldn't, but I was still putting everything together. He corners a like maybe a confidential informant or like a lowly gangster.
Okay.
And he's like asking him for information, like threatening him for information, and the guy dies in Batman's hands. And when Commissioner Gordon says what happened to him, he says he died of fear. And I remember reading that. And the thing is that for years I thought to myself, I don't think I've seen a Batman movie where the Batman could make someone just die of fear. And this movie sort of like said, this is as close as it got in my opinion.
Yeah.
Where he will kill you if you just like get him on the wrong side of the bed that day, you know?
Yeah.
But the thing is that his control, the only thing that's keeping him sane is the fact that he won't kill you, but he will beat the crap out of you.
Yeah.
And God forbid if you should be so afraid of him that you'll die in front of him.
Well, the two guys the two guys he beats up at the beginning of the Tim Burton Batman, they were pretty fearful too, man.
Yeah, actually, but you know what? That was a really comic book way of trying to introduce that. This movie was so grounded in sort of reality that you kind of like can see the type of like, let's face it, everybody in this movie is a potential murderer, even the corrupted people. Yeah. You know, that's the sad thing, that it has to be so grounded that anybody is capable of murder, and that includes Batman.
Yeah. All right, so let's see. I didn't expect John Turturro in it. That was great. That was a cool cast.
He was a good, he was he was in his element because he's done mobster roles before, but this was very subtly. There were bits of unconvincing matters that I had to forgive. Like for instance, Catwoman goes after him and he comes up behind her and is able to like knock her out. I'm thinking, come on, you're the Catwoman. You have all your senses. Yeah. You know, you should be able to know that an old man is coming up behind you.
Yeah, and I didn't like the fact that they killed him. I don't like that at all, man. That's a guy that needs to stick around.
Well, all of it is about the plot, but you know what? I think the plot sort of works with the way that it sort of like eventually like leads to some justice for some of these people.
Yeah.
Like Falcone was brought to justice by the Riddler by basically saying, I'm going to have Batman figure you out, and when Batman arrests you and takes you out, I'll be there to really take you out, because you know what? Him trusting the courts.
No. Yeah, I mean, Turturro said it, you know, it's like I have all you guys in my pocket, but then again, there was an army of police officers there to tell him that they're not in his pocket anymore, you know, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know what's going on with Christopher Nolan, but I was glad to see that, because on some level, you know, it felt like a David Fincher movie, and of course you have to discuss the Christopher Nolan movie. And then I just watched Tenet, which I do love. And then Dark Knight Rises, and it's like I like finally when I got a copy of the movie and I'm putting the subtitles on, and I'm like, you know, Bane is saying some really important stuff that I never heard before. It's unclear, you know. Yeah. The Riddler here was clear. Even with the mask and everything, they made sure that his words were clear. Because what he says, of course, is important to the plot, you know. Because one of the things I mentioned in my last video is in Tenet, the protagonist and Eve, they're discussing very important narrative stuff behind oxygen masks.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, what the hell?
You know, the thing about it is that as much as you can make something clear for the audience to hear, Christopher Nolan, I think, is the type of director that says, well, how would they sound behind real masks?
Well, that's fine, but
yes,
this is where you have to cheat.
You do, yes.
Because I've seen movies where
they're so accurate.
Because I remember, I think there was a movie that really sold me the importance of I forgot the name of the process where, you know, after the movie is shot, you bring in all your actors into the studio and record the voice over
audio. Yeah, it's kind of like audio dubbing, that kind of thing. It's like ADR, I think it's called, audio dialogue
ADR,
recording.
ADR is actually when let's see, how do I describe this? You will see times when you're watching a movie and the camera will be behind the person's head and you hear him talking. That's ADR.
Yes, exactly.
It wasn't done.
That is done so much in the Godfather movies. It's amazing that nobody picks up on that. Yeah. You would pick up on it when you see it, though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think it's voiceover.
Oh yeah, it is. That's exactly what it is. Okay. Yeah.
Because I remember the movie that sold it to me, and I think I'm correct here. It was a Richard Pryor movie where they had a scene on a viaduct, like on a bridge above traffic, and you're hearing all the background noise. I'm like, holy shit! Yeah. It's a miracle. I understand what he's talking about, and I don't think it was a comedic movie, and if it was, that scene wasn't, and so Richard Pryor was being serious, but all the background noise was nuts. Okay, so let's see. I may consider this a plot hole. I mean, in the second Spider-Man movie, they actually removed his mask, and they all agreed to keep his identity private, which was kind of cool. It was kind of the people who helped him out decided to become like supportive.
Exactly.
But I don't know. The Batman was unconscious, and I'm like, how come they didn't remove his mask? I think that's a plot hole.
That's actually something that I mean, let me ask you a question. Did you think the movie was really way too long?
No, and I'm glad that I feel that way.
Me too.
Because it is long.
Mm-hmm.
And when a movie is really long and doesn't feel that way, it means that it's well constructed, basically.
Exactly.
And also that means that the next time I see it, it will feel even less longer because I get used to it. You know?
What I think would have saved that scene, because you say that it's a plot hole, and I agree. Like, there he is, he's unconscious. He's obviously been taken from one place to another place. He has been in the care of cops.
Yeah.
And every single one of those cops, aside from Gordon, just hates the freak, the Batman.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure that somebody must have attempted to take the mask off. So why did they wait until that very last moment where everybody's surrounded? Like, you mean to say that in the entire time, nobody tried to take it off?
Yeah.
He was unconscious. He could have done that. But instead, it was for that moment. Now, what would have saved it is if Gordon was literally making sure nobody tried it and like pushing them away to the point where the Batman wakes up and says, they're trying to take my mask away. And then it's the two of them against the whole room of cops.
Yeah.
But instead, it was just the Batman against the whole room of cops. And I still think that scene kind of works because, that's the moment where the Batman gets scared.
Yeah.
He gets up because it's like, holy shit, I was unconscious. Did they see my face?
Yeah.
Panic is what I saw in that scene. And I loved it for that.
Well, in The Dark Knight, one of the Joker's guys tries to touch him and he gets shocked.
He gets shocked! I love that! And I wonder, they could have done that on this one. And I would have been happy with that too.
Perfect, yeah.
But yeah, when they kind of didn't really...
that scene don't work by a group of cops who hate him.
But I find it forgivable, and I don't know. I probably would have done it differently, like the way I just described. But you know what? Once again, I'm not the director. It was Matt Reeves, and for one reason or another, even though there is like a plot, kind of like non-alignment.
Yeah.
It still sort of like said like, yeah, but you're still staying the course.
Yeah, it's a forgivable kind
yes, of thing. That's why I loved him so much. That's why I liked it so much.
Yeah, I this might be a minor gripe, but I wish there was more. How do I say this? More evidence of the closeness and the trust that is between Gordon and Batman, because it's just there.
Yeah, to be quite honest with you, I love the fact that there was like this camaraderie between the Batman and Gordon.
Yeah.
And the two of them have this like trust thing, but it's like, hey, I'm putting my ass out on the line, and you can just disappear in the darkness, and I'm gonna be the one holding the bag if shit goes down. But the thing about it is that the Batman doesn't want to break any kind of loyalty that he has for Gordon, because he obviously knows that Gordon is got his back.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is that when the two of them remember that they're kind of like facing each other, and they're kind of like just staring each other down, when in fact they're just trying to deceive the cops that are in the other room.
He's like, punch me in the face.
I was like, I love that, because it's like, hey man, I know these guys are here to fucking kill you, And the only way you're going to be able to get out of there is if you punch me in the face and get the fuck out of here. Yeah. And hopefully you will get out of here alive because I can't save you.
You know what? That's pretty much the evidence I've been. I was just bitching about. That definitely shows.
But the thing is that we have to fill in the. We sort of have to fill in the blanks. Yeah. And I wonder if that's a letdown by the director, or if the director is actually giving us enough credit where we will know that rings true.
Yeah.
In fact, let me ask you a question. There's a scene where the Batman and Gordon and the rest of the cops go into the den of the Riddler, and I think that they discovered this bat in a cage.
Yeah.
And the Batman puts his hand in very, very carefully in order to take out this envelope.
Yeah.
And the scene actually goes on for a long time, and you see his hand going in there very carefully.
The bat is going insane in there.
And you kind of like wonder, that scene could have been cut down because obviously he could just take it out. Why is he afraid of a bat? And all I can think about was like, there's a fucking bomb. There's a bomb.
Oh, yeah.
There's a booby trap. There's a bomb. And so I can understand why he was going slowly, but then when he takes the thing out and it's just an envelope, I'm thinking, it's a little bit of a letdown. But yet his carefulness rang true. And I forgave it, even though there was like the payoff that I had in my head did not happen. So even though I was filling out the blanks, I was sort of like deceived into thinking, hey,
something's gonna happen.
Yeah. But there's a reason why he's being careful, because you don't know if something's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Once again, he put me in the mindset that I think that I deserve for this movie. But yet I kind of wondered that when I left it, I was thinking like an editor and thinking, I could have cut that scene down.
Yeah, I think. Well, the bat was. I think they overly animated that bat because it was going ape shit.
Yeah, the bat was afraid of the Batman.
Yeah, that's true. It is a little long, but it is also a clue from the Riddler. So you do want to really put some importance into
exactly.
the scene. So I think I guess that's why it's slow.
And the entire sequence where they do go into his den. And you see all the books with all that writing. That was straight out of Seven. Yeah, which let's talk about this a little bit. Did you think it was too much like Seven, or did you think that the movie was actually more in tune with another movie that that it kind of like related more for you?
Yeah, it does seem a little bit like Seven. Yeah.
Okay, to me,
because I would like to think that the director did not rip that off.
But it seems a little obvious.
I'm hoping what it is I think I'm hoping it's one of those things where there's so much music these days that with some lawsuits it's like you have a good reason to sue, but it may just be coincidence.
Yeah.
So it might just be that. But
there's a really weird story from an interview that I remember reading in AintItCool.com back in the 90s or in the early 2000s, where they interviewed David Fincher, and David Fincher had just completed the movie Zodiac. Okay. Now Zodiac is about the investigation in San Francisco of the Zodiac killer, which happened in the 1960s and the early 70s. Now the thing is that David Fincher imagined. He says, I think that maybe the Zodiac killer was a fan of the television show The Batman.
No kidding.
And the TV show Batman, the one with Adam West.
Okay.
And that he was one of these guys that just decided to like dress up like his own version of a villain, which is why there's like a sketch and he terrorized some people wearing like this kind of like setup that looks like the way that this Riddler looks in the Batman movie here.
Okay. Yeah.
So David Fincher says, I'm kind of assuming or I'm imagining that the guy who was the Zodiac killer just had this fixation about being like this supervillain. And so he embodied the supervillain and he created his own personification where he gave ciphers and that he gave clues and he taunted the police and stuff. Yeah. And so he says that maybe it was because of his reaction to a TV show like Batman, saying, well, I can be a Joker or I can be like someone like that. And so now that 40 or 50 years later that a writer sort of is like personifying and saying, what if Batman came across somebody that was like the Zodiac killer? Who would that be? Well, let's make him into the Riddler. What if the Riddler was this? And I sort of see how the evidence and how the dominoes have creatively have led to this. And I'm wondering, wow, did Matt Reeves read the same interview, and he must have admired David Fincher so much that he says, I'm going to make my movie like his movie Seven.
That's true, because like looking at
yes, right,
looking at the Planet of the Apes movie, and Let Me In does have a little bit of noirish kind of stuff, you know. But yeah, this was a different, certainly visually, it was a different style.
No doubt.
Yeah, that's true. So I mean, with great directors like this, I don't want to accuse them of ripping off stuff, but it's like, okay, you know, I have to admit
it's also very difficult for any director.
It rained a lot in Seven too.
Yeah, in fact, it's kind of like I thought to myself, I was watching a Roland Emmerich movie, because it's always raining in his movies. But just at the same time, I know for a fact that I've seen shots within the movie that reminded me of a Hitchcock shot, or reminded me of something that Matt Reeves had done earlier in one of his earlier movies. The movie is filled with such visual reference from different movies and for all forms, that it's hard to actually like say, oh, this is that. But the thing is that the David Fincher 7 was definitely like the one that kind of like says, oh, this is the Batman version of 7.
Yeah.
You can't really
it's like
deny
modern film noir and stuff like that. Yeah.
Isn't it ironic that the movies that were disowned by David Fincher are the ones that are the most sort of like that mostly influence filmmakers? Because I still know filmmakers and fans of filmmaking who loved Alien 3.
Yeah.
And David Fincher has disowned that
movie. The assembly cut, I mean, my God.
Oh my God, isn't that the best?
I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I'm like, they locked the alien away. Why the fuck didn't they put that in the theater? Jesus Christ.
You know what I
saw
love?
That I couldn't believe that.
I love the behind the scenes footage.
That event in the movie, like, has never happened before.
Yes, and in the documentary of the Alien 3 movie, a lot of the actors even say, you know, there's a lot of this movie that doesn't make sense, and we knew it. Yeah. In fact, what I loved is that when they did the movie Alien 4, they weren't given a script; they were giving the storyboards because they didn't have a finished script. So all these actors were like saying, "Well, I guess that's me," or "I guess that's me," and then eventually that all changed. But I think it was the same thing with Alien 3. There was like no finished script.
I don't understand that stuff. They were building these gigantic sets.
Yeah.
The script was a rolling, rewritten thing all the time.
Absolutely, every idea was being changed.
You have J.J. Abrams, who's making stuff up as he goes along when he's working on the finale of 3 Star Wars films. Like Daisy Ridley?
Yeah, Daisy Ridley.
She said that during filming, one day they told her, you're related to Palpatine. Another day, you're not related to Palpatine.
Exactly.
And it's like we could criticize George Lucas forever for the prequels, but the guy, just as much as Walt Disney, had storyboards up the ass.
Exactly.
You know? And I taught storyboarding for a while, and I know the importance of it. But for myself also, when I work on my own comic books, the tool that was the final nail in the coffin is not the correct term, but the thing that definitively made me, I guess, force myself to finish projects that I started, is, as far as stories and like comic books, not just singular pieces, but stories. The thing that made me get over my boredom once I started working on those before was writing an entire story down.
Exactly.
And I write the whole thing down. I write what happens on every page, every frame. Then I write the dialogue. Then I do storyboards for everything. And even if I get bored with a story like that, once I'm into the drawing stage, I'm like, well, I'm not going to stop now. You know, so I don't understand why it's not an industry standard that you have to have a finished script before I hand you over $100 million. You know?
Exactly.
I mean, I don't understand that at all, man. That's just...
Anyway, yeah, it's one of those things that is a mystery because weird, the thing is that if I was in charge of hundreds of millions of dollars, I would be going crazy. But yet there are people out there who can handle that, and they sort of like still make bad decisions. Which, when it comes to making a movie, anything could go wrong, and nothing can sometimes go right. But when something does go right, that's when you say, "Oh, thank God, it worked out."
Yeah,
because it certainly wasn't skill, or it must have been just luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and another thing that like the guy who's doing Star Trek now in Star Trek Picard is a catastrophe.
Really, you think so?
Alex Kurtzman? Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. I mean, we could do a video on that, but he got trounced for because he did a TV show with Clarice from Silence of the Lambs. It's called Clarice.
Yeah, I watched that.
And the at least like critics that usually are known to cater to people like that, they crapped all over him for it, But
I personally think that Clarice is a little bit of a letdown, and I think it's because exactly what you said, because of Alex Kurtzman.
Yeah.
And he does. I personally do think that he's going in that direction with the Picard show, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, I hope it doesn't go in that direction.
The Picard show has hit its superb low already, and now the reason I brought that up is because arguably one of the best Star Trek films, or the best, depending on who you speak to, is Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
And the director knew nothing.
Yes, exactly. I know that story. It's a wonderful story.
The guy sat down and watched every fucking thing, and Alex Kurtzman clearly has not done that.
No.
The mistakes on the show, the academic, even with the laws of physics, it's ridiculous. There was like sonar in space or whatever it was. I mean, it's like, and I watched all of Picard. No, actually, that's not correct, because there was stuff I just couldn't watch. It was so bad. The episode with Riker and
Deanna Troi in their home planet.
Unwatchable. I was skipping back and forth, and then spoiler alert, they kill Picard at the end of the series, and it's like,
I would have preferred that to have happened. I would have preferred that.
Well, there's people out there who want to claim that this new Star Trek iteration is the same as it was in the past. I'm like, I don't remember seeing people's eyes get ripped out in the old shows, or Riker getting killed. I mean, that's great. And ironically, the very new episode of Picard season 2, episode 1. Finally, it's a little more levity to it.
I agree. Yeah,
it's watchable. I may actually rewatch this one, because I cannot watch anything from the first season.
Yeah, when I get home tonight, I'm gonna watch it.
Killing a woman unarmed. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, man. You start sort of like realizing, the direction that some shows are going, and you sort of like start realizing that you have to shake your head, because they're just following, unfortunately, what a lot of people are doing with reboots. They're bringing back something, and then in order to make it dramatic or to make it different, they kill someone that's been beloved and has been part of the history of the show.
Yeah,
and then or they give it like a real weird, like for instance in the spoilers, but in the conclusion of the first season of Picard dies, but yet his body has been synthetically resurrected.
No,
that's not what happens.
It's a facsimile of Picard. So Picard is gone.
Really? So now, but they transferred his conscience into this thing, right?
I believe this is a complete copy.
Wow, I gotta see that show again, because now I'm beginning to.
That's why the fans of original Star Trek and Star Trek Next Generation. Next Generation.
And you know how they're solving it with this new season?
Was that?
But you know how they're solving that issue with this new season?
By not
talking about it.
There's a smidget of a reference to it, and it's like. I mean, and Michael Chabon, I believe, who was the guy who came up with this.
Yeah.
His statement is, they wanted him to feel what the synthetics were going through, because they're persecuted in season 1.
Exactly.
And so they killed him. And then 2, he said that he purposely put stuff in Picard to piss off fans. And 3, he said that. I'm paraphrasing. I think he meant Kurtzman and him, but he said we're reminding original Star Trek fans what the show's really about. And I'm like, fuck off. Anyway, Gotham City looks great, but nothing beats Tim Burton's Gotham City.
It's kind of
not only that, but God bless him. He said he used Metropolis.
Let me ask you a question. Your recollection of the original 1989 Batman.
Yeah.
Because remember that up until that point,
actually more so. As far as for me, more so Batman Returns. I like that. I like Gotham.
Really? You enjoyed Batman Returns? To me, Batman in 1989 Batman was really like the kind of fan service that we had never gotten before.
Yeah.
It was like literally like, we're making a movie for you guys, and guess what? It's a Batman movie. I was like jumping for joy. So now it's like when Batman Returns came out, it was kind of like, it's a little over the top, which made me realize that the first movie was also over the top. So I don't know why.
With the scenery.
Yeah. Which made me kind of like realize, why was I getting critical of Batman? I'm being given Batman. But yet, then they went very cartoonish with Batman Forever and with Batman and Robin. So when the Christopher Nolan Batman came out, it was grounded in reality, and I certainly enjoyed those movies.
Yeah.
But then by the third movie of the Christopher Nolan trilogy, they sort of had the flying wing, and all I can think of was like, well, if I don't really see that in real life, then I can't sort of believe it in a Batman movie. Yeah, but I had to like say to myself, but it's the Batman that I've gotten, and I still enjoy it. And yet now, with the Ben Affleck Batman and the Batman that we get here, they're all grounded in this kind of reality where it's like, what else could they have done? Yeah. They couldn't have gone fantastic. They could have gone Adam West.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because you can't go too crazy with it. Else it's a weird genre movie at that point,
So when you say Batman Returns being what you liked, you think of it visually, and was it true more to the Batman of the comic books or Batman of the cinematic universe that you sort of imagine you had?
Well, I can't claim to be an authority on a comic book.
Exactly.
I just know, because my head blew up when I heard that Tim Burton used Metropolis as a reference, because that's my favorite movie in the world.
Sure.
The complete version. I always have to say it's the complete version, because that's different than the original. The original version America received.
Oh, I realized that. Yeah, exactly.
I guess that kind of weirdness would work now if it was animated. To put gigantic statues in a modern day Batman film would feel really odd.
Yeah, right. Because it kind of like no city does that, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and then the Christopher Nolan Batman, they're the Tumbler, and I can't remember the name of the Batwing. I don't know what it's called, but it's not called Batwing.
Right, exactly.
But that else, and the motorcycle, whatever.
The
those
pod,
things,
the Bat pod.
Those things are just military.
Exactly.
There's no Batman to it. I love the bike, and the Tumbler's fantastic, but it's really. And I hate to criticize it, but it's engineering.
Yeah, it's engineering, right?
Yeah.
And yet in the Batman, when you see the muscle car that Batman uses as the Batmobile, it looks real enough to the point where it's like, I think I've seen that before by somebody.
It's like
yeah.
It's like a vanishing point.
Yes, exactly. You're right about that. The vanishing point. It's a Charger.
I got that movie on my computer. I haven't watched it, but
you'll love it.
I watched it back in. No, okay. I watched it when I grew up in Quebec, and because I remember the naked girl back and shit, and then I saw it in 2006 or something like that. But I do need a revisit.
I just saw it for the first time like in the last 3 years.
No kidding.
I swear to God, yeah.
I forgot. I completely forgot how depressing it is.
And it was our friend Iggy Rubchinsky who says you should watch The Vanishing Point, and I said okay. Then I saw it. I called him and I says, hey, I saw it. I thought it was a great movie. And I told him all about it, and he goes, oh no, I wasn't talking about that movie. You know which movie he was thinking about? He was thinking about a Lee Marvin movie called Point Blank, or what was it called? Point Blank.
Yeah, that's the movie that Mel Gibson remade.
Remade his paycheck a few years later, right? Exactly.
Yeah. That is a neo-noir film.
He was telling me about another movie, but he led me to a movie that was actually mistakenly, but it was like, wow, you meant that movie instead of this one? But it was still a good movie experience to watch.
What's weird with that is, so Point Blank is pretty damn cool.
It is, yeah.
And there's a scene in there where this guy who's clearly a James Brown ripoff.
No doubt, yeah, exactly.
And what was there? Was something else that was striking about it?
Well,
okay. So And then Carol O'Connor's in it.
Yeah, he's in it. Yeah, Archie Bunker, right? Exactly.
So the weird thing with that, and I'm still iffy on whether or not it works, because these movies, like, because of the fact that it's such a different time in filmmaking, that whenever things are odd, I just accept it, because but the main boss is somebody over the phone.
Exactly. Yeah, you never actually. He's in Florida somewhere or wherever it was, right?
So when Payback was made with Mel Gibson, I saw when that came out, it was the Mel Gibson version, because they fired the director, and then Mel Gibson took over. I think it was him that finished directing the whole thing. They completely changed the visual style of it because the movie's blue.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But they released the director's cut, which is a lot more like Point Blank, where again there's a woman on the phone instead of who's the villain? The actor played the villain brilliantly.
In the Christopher Christopherson. Yeah.
That because that was not in the director's cut of Payback.
Exactly.
And I can't watch the director's cut of it. I've seen Payback a million times.
Wow.
And it just didn't work for me. But anyway.
That's definitely one of those movies that worked better for Mel Gibson.
Yeah, it was before his implosion.
Right, exactly. Before the whole thing, before the whole Jesus Christ thing too.
Oh yeah, probably one of the best scenes in the movies, where Bruce Wayne discovers the truth about his father by that awesome conversation with Falcone.
I love the fact that he found the things that his mom is mentally ill.
Yeah, this was a new narrative.
And this was part of a comic book where it turns out that Martha Wayne, before she was Martha Wayne, was named Martha Arkham.
Okay.
And her family was sort of like kind of like the Waynes, but the other half, like they were the rich Waynes, and then they were the rich Arkhams, and they were, and the families were both billionaires in Gotham City, and eventually one sort of like reverted to such corruption that they lost their fortune, and the Wayne Foundation continued being, very prosperous.
Yeah.
But in the narrative that essentially was adopted for the Batman, turns out that Martha Wayne was mentally ill, and so Thomas Wayne, in order to protect her and her reputation from the media, asked Falcone or Moroni, the other gangster that was eventually brought down, and it's never really seen in the Batman, but he went to him and said, "Hey, I know that this reporter, this journalist, is in your payroll. I thought
it was Falcone.
Oh no, it wasn't Falcone. So at the start of the movie, when you see that the mayor has been murdered by the Riddler, and you see up on the wall, it talks about how Moroni, the other gangster, was brought down. You see the headlines and framed on the walls. And so the narrative with the movie was that Thomas Wayne was trying to protect his wife.
Yeah.
And so he went. He found out that a journalist that was in Moroni's payroll was going to come out with the story.
Damn, I got that mixed up because I thought it was Falcone.
Right, and so he goes to Moroni and he says, "Hey man, I know that this guy works for you. Can you please take care of it?" And Moroni decided that when he said take care of it, Moroni says, "Yeah, sure, I'll take care of it." But Thomas Wayne was assuming that he was going to tell the journalist, "Don't write the story." Instead, he kills the journalist, and now he has something against Thomas Wayne and says, "Now you're going to be in my pocket, because if you were to become the mayor of the city of Gotham, then I have this holding, and I will tell everybody that you made me kill this journalist for you in order to protect your wife." And Thomas Wayne realized, fuck, he does have me by the nuts. But what I'm going to do is that I'm going to admit to it, and I'm going to go to the police, and I'm going to go to the press and admit what happened.
And then that night his parents were
killed. Now, later, it turns out that Bruce Wayne is told by Falcone that's what happened. Now, Falcone tells that to Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne is like, no fucking way. So he goes to Alfred at the hospital and says, "Alfred, you lied to me." And Alfred says, "Hang on. Falcone says that it was Moroni. I think that it was Falcone." And he says, "You think?" Like, yeah, I can't be sure.
Yeah, they weren't.
I can't make the connection. It could have been a random violent act.
They don't know for sure.
Which is like, you want to confuse the thing even more? Yeah, I know. This is one of those things that you have to fill in the blanks. And then when I read some of the reviews and read a little bit of more research, and even Matt Reeves eventually even said that, that's the whole narrative. And that was taken from comic books. Believe it or not, the narrative was taken from. But that's the thing. It sort of once again makes you the detective, but it doesn't give you any answers.
Weird, right? Well, react to this, because I thought this is what I thought happened. I thought that Martha Wayne, Martha Markham, was in a hospital asylum,
right?
And a reporter was going to go out with a story, and Thomas Wayne went to Falcone to have that guy discuss with Thomas Elliott, the reporter, to tell him to not put the story out to the public.
Right.
Falcone, if I remember correctly, and you could tell me if I'm wrong, but Falcone said that because Thomas Elliott would not agree to not go with the story, he had to kill him. And then I'm trying to think what Falcone said after that, but clearly, what I do recall clearly is that next scene eventually, Wayne is at the hospital and Alfred wakes up from the coma and he says, "You lied to me," and then we get into Alfred saying, the night that Thomas Wayne was going to go to the police and admit to the entire thing, and that night, by coincidence, both of his parents were killed. So nobody knows for sure, because that's what I thought happened. But anyway, whenever, hopefully I can find the correct answer online or wait for the movie to come out.
I know, isn't it amazing? You know what? There was a time when I couldn't figure something out in a movie, I would go and buy the novelization of the book.
Yeah,
and the book would give me some answers.
But you can't even trust that because the Alien Covenant is novelization is different than a movie, and apparently Revenge of the Sith as a novel is phenomenal.
Yes, exactly. I heard the exact same thing. Actually, I wanted to ask you, what do you think of the podcast or the YouTube videos where they explain the end to movies and they actually put it in a narrative where, well, sometimes they do give you the kind of justification of the movie that you didn't get when you first saw the movie?
Well, it's fine if it's based on what the production wanted,
right?
Not fan fiction,
right? A lot of it probably
fan fiction is a little too much sometimes.
A lot of the time, I see that it's like they say, in a previous novelization from 1973, there was a character that, and I'm thinking, you're really reaching out there, and I don't know.
There's a guy, there's a guy who did a beautiful hour-long video on the 35 Evangelion.
Really?
Like storylines. It's because he brought in the phone games and then the mangas.
Exactly.
Because I thought there was only one manga, and then he's like, okay, so this actor behaves this way here. You may think it's odd, but because of what happened in the phone game,
Yeah.
I'm like,
I know.
Like,
it's just one of those exactly. But
because I do want to.
Sure.
I want to make a video on I'm gonna cover the series, and then I'm gonna do, because the ending was so disappointing to fans that they got death threats.
Really?
So they made a movie called, because it was Evangelion, then they made a movie called The End of Evangelion, who gave you a different ending. And then I don't know why, but I'm glad they did it. They did these superbly budgeted 4 films that are just works of art.
Yeah, exactly.
Like opera music and superb animation, which retold the story from the beginning. So it's kind of like the Robotech Macross kind of thing, because in Robotech some of the events from Macross were retold
and
basically.
carried over to exactly.
And then of course we get into how in America Robotech, the second season, but definitely the third season had nothing to do with Robotech in Japan.
Wow.
So, yeah.
You see, there's a whole history to this that I know that I mean, if I had stuck to it, I would have been a great expert to it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of weird. But after a certain point, I kind of was trying to put away childish things. Yeah. But those childish things never put me away. So I always went back to something. So, like, for instance, one of the animes that I watch kind of religiously, and I'm always impressed by it, Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a great series.
I respect the lore and I respect the fan base, and I can't stand that.
Really? Yeah, I know. It is a weird show to like.
I will say this. I'm very anal with my animation, especially Japanese, because the series tend to be boring and they have less budget.
That's very true.
That's why I had to.
Japanese animation is so weird, differently narratively wise.
Yes, and also the 12 frames per second is an industry acceptable standard over there. I'm like, Jesus Christ, and so that's why the only reason that I went back to the series of Evangelion is because, as fantastic as the movies were, I'm like, I am completely lost. So I had to go back to the beginning, and once I watched the beginning, I was like, I was a complete fuck up for not watching the series, because not only does the movies make sense now, but the material is superb.
Isn't it?
The writing is brilliant. But anyway, we're getting off topic.
We're getting off topic.
This is
fun. I love talking to you about stuff like this.
This is stuff I'm gonna have to put in my video too. But real one thing too, like even the Evangelion, Hideaki Anno doesn't do himself any favors, because, like I said, there's the series, and then there's the end of Evangelion, then there's the 4 movies. But before. After the series and before the end of Evangelion, they muddied the water with this thing called Evangelion Death and Rebirth.
Wow.
They grabbed a bunch of scenes from the series and
re-edited
discombobulated the whole. I'm like, what the fuck, And they in order to make it widescreen, they cropped.
It's kind of like, remember there was a show called Battle for the Planets, but it was actually I think it was called Gatchaman, right? And but in order for America to accept it, they sort of like put these bookend their own scenes in order to they had this narrative R2D2 right, exactly, which you almost immediately realized this is not right, because you realized there was something off about it.
Yeah. And then that Casey Kasem did.
Casey Kasem did the voice of whatever his name was. Yeah.
Well, not to just one last thing about Evangelion, because I could start talking about that forever. But the scene where Bruce Wayne finds out about his parents right. My mind went into the Evangelion You Cannot Redo film, where there's a fantastic scene where the Thomas Wayne-esque character in there has a Alfred, basically, who tells Bruce Wayne the truth about his mother and his father. And I just saying that reminds me of how many parallels there are and stuff. And it's a very powerful scene, and where the little boy finds out about his mom and his father and all that stuff. And the only reason it's not intense is because of that material that was already covered in the series, but it's a little different,
Sure.
But anyway, so let's see here. Another very intense scene is where it's implied for a minute that the Riddler knows that Batman is Bruce Wayne.
Right. Now that is the thing that kind of I wonder, does he know that it's Bruce Wayne?
No, he doesn't.
No, right? There's a moment where he just says Bruce Wayne
over and over.
Because once again, the plot had to be, I sort of had to study a little bit of the plot, but he himself was a victimized orphan, because he says that I lived in an orphanage just like you, just like Bruce Wayne, I mean.
Yeah.
So he's talking to the Batman. He says, Bruce Wayne, they call him an orphan, but he's not really an orphan. He's an orphan that lives in a castle above the real orphans.
Okay.
Real people like me, like guys who had to wake up with rats biting our fingers, right? Yeah. And the thing is that he was pissed off because, and here's the narrative that I don't know if you followed it in the movie. So Thomas Wayne was a billionaire, and he actually built the Arkham Hospital for his wife.
Okay.
Now, remember, it's not called the Arkham Asylum. In the movie, it's Arkham Hospital. It says so in the back of their uniform. Yeah, okay. One of those things that you have to sort of notice. Yeah. Now, the thing is that he built it, and he wanted to give the city of Gotham, which he did. He gave him $1 billion for the renewal fund.
Okay.
But the renewal fund, which was supposed to go to orphans and actually provide heat and comfort for orphans of Gotham City, that money, as soon as Thomas Wayne was killed, was literally picked at by all of the gangsters and all of the corrupted officials of Gotham City, which essentially funded the criminal element to continue to rise. And so by the time that the Batman tries to change and to bring justice to Gotham, the corruption has been built by the money that was given to the city by his father.
That's ironic.
Which the Riddler is basically saying the city is such a waste of corrupted people that the money that was supposed to help a guy like me never came to me. It never reached me. So now I will bring justice to Gotham City and essentially develop the plot where he's an American terrorist and essentially gets the homeless and the pissed off members of like the Proud Boys of Gotham to essentially which is why remember there's a sequence in the movie where they're all in a funeral and all of a sudden the car crashes through the funeral.
That might be one of my favorite scenes in there.
Exactly. And there's a moment where he looks up and the Riddler is looking at the whole thing. And I'm thinking, well, wait a second, where was the Riddler when where was he where he allowed the car to crash in? And suddenly when the conclusion of the movie, once again spoilers, you realize that it wasn't just the Riddler, it was all of his minions.
Yes, a gang.
Right, which meant that maybe the guy who shot Falcone wasn't the Riddler. It wasn't maybe it was one of those minions.
Yeah.
And so what if his hands are clean, but yet he set everything in motion?
Like, Charles Manson, basically, because he didn't do any killing.
Right, and here's the other thing. He looks, the Paul Dano character, the Riddler character, looked like Mark David Chapman.
Okay.
The guy who killed John Lennon, which is another thing that was grounded. He also looked a little bit like a fat version of Jeffrey Dahmer. Yeah. But the thing about it is that they made him out to look like a serial killer. But he's he's Charles Manson. Yeah. He never really picked up a gun or strangled anyone, but he definitely sent people out to do all that shit.
He initiated that whole thing.
Weird movie. Because, I just love the direction that he took. But let me ask you, did you think that the Riddler was a strong villain for this movie?
No.
Wow! I agree 100% on that.
Because I wanted a James Bond-esque mastermind.
That's what I thought he was going to be. Yeah. And instead, he was like this pathetic character who then has to be talked down and built up by the Joker.
I guess,
that
was disappointing.
I know. I was like, and that's fact when he goes, "Oh, you're not as smart as I thought you were," which is true because, and that's what I kind of also appreciate, the fact that even though the Batman is supposed to be the world's greatest detective, he's starting off and he fucked up such a big event that this movie presented that it's understandable because you know what? Even the world's greatest detective had to become the world's greatest detective, and it certainly wasn't in the first couple of years of him being Batman.
Yeah.
Give him another maybe 10 years, and then
he gets...
because here's the thing. Remember when the Batman goes into the nightclub and all of these motherfuckers wanted to take him on?
Yeah.
It's because, hey, I can fucking take him on. Yeah, wait 10 years, and then the next time he comes into a room, you better fucking turn around and run away.
Yeah.
Because you're not that tough.
So he's building a reputation.
Yeah. And he's got to build up his detective skills.
Yeah. All right, so I did like the because one thing that I always thought was absurd was the insane amount of materials Batman has access to. They kind of worked that out well, the Christopher Nolan Batman, because they're ordering stuff from Japan or where in the Zack Snyder universe, it was ridiculous. I mean, for Alfred and him to build all that stuff, that seemed unrealistic. in the location of the Batcave here seemed a lot more realistic.
Yeah, and you know what? I kind of appreciated that they kind of like did a little bit of an homage to the Lex Luthor lair in the Superman the movie.
Yeah.
Because remember that his lair is one of the abandoned stations of Metropolis.
Yeah.
And this was kind of like the same thing. There was like a subway service that underneath that was never used. Forgotten. That's forgotten. Yeah. And it looks really fucking great. I mean, I'm sorry, but it's fantastic.
Looks like it's rusty and stuff like that. And
rats in the corner.
Yeah. So it was more realistic that way. Yeah.
Actually, I would have loved that if there was like a shot where rats are running through the console and he just like grabs one and throws one away. It's like, dude, get pest control. And he says, I'm a bat. I don't fucking need a pest control. I'll eat them.
I'm comfortable here.
I'm having so much fun.
All right, let's see. I almost feel like, how do I put this? One thing that drives me nuts when I watch some YouTubers is they discuss things and they say, "Oh, I'm not sure about this," and I'm just gonna skip it. I'm like, dude, you're making a YouTube video about a movie. You should know. You should have all of your information. And so, there was this threat of a gigantic secret to be released.
Right, exactly. And there was really no payoff to that.
Can you tell me, did I miss something? Because the only thing I can think of is that Falcone had everybody in his pocket. I think that's the only thing I can think of. And actually, what you mentioned, and for some ridiculous reason I missed it, the fact that the Wayne money essentially started, or at least elevated, corruption in Gotham.
Yeah.
That's a fucking secret right there.
Right there,
that should have been focused on. But what is the secret?
Well, I'm a little confused about that, because there is a riddle that the Riddler says, and he goes, "What's black and blue and something something," to sort of emphasize that the answer that the Batman gave was you. And the reason why is because, it shows that what's black and blue is that him beaten up. But yet it's actually something else, and I can't remember what the actual riddle was. But what's black and blue and something something actually refer to having all of these people who had to gather around that Madison Square Garden location because of the break, the flooding of the break walls.
Yeah.
And so what's black and blue and red all over was the riddle. And so the answer was, all of these people in this area were going to become victims. Had the cops, had the politicians, had the citizens all in one area, and the Riddler's minions were going to take them all out.
Okay.
And so that was the thing that Bruce Wayne didn't figure out, that the Riddler was going to create this great American terrorist massacre. Okay. And so that's why he had to jump into action. Yeah. But as to whether or not that was the actual plot twist, I couldn't figure it out. I just assumed that was it. Yeah. I'm kind of I really don't think that there was like a payoff on that. But but at the same time, what kind of like made me forgive the whole thing, where plot holes seemed to be all over the place, was the fact that this was all terrorism, American terrorism. That if you think about it, unfortunately, high school kids can do this kind of thing. All they have to do is just bring a gun to school and they just massacre everybody. You know? And so the fact that you now put Batman in a situation where he has got to stop something like this, it just falls very true, very grounded. And I don't know, what else could they have done? Because, unless you go into a fantastic direction with the Batman and you make him fighting the Joker on a Zeppelin, and they're on top of the Zeppelin, and the thing is falling from the sky. That's too fantastic for me to sort of accept. But something like this that they did in the Batman, I could accept it, because unfortunately I can imagine it happening in real life. You see where it is. As opposed to the ending of like the first Captain America movie, where they're in this crazy airplane and shit. Which rings true for like a Marvel movie. But for a DC movie about Batman, you sort of really kind of want it to be grounded.
Because he doesn't have any powers.
Exactly. This is a guy that can. And that's the other thing. The fact that he's got his face completely open, and there's a moment where one of the Joker minions was reloading his gun in order to shoot him off of the ledge. Like he was gonna aim that gun into the Batman's
face.
face, and that scene went on so long before the Catwoman came and rescued him that I actually thought, how the fuck is he gonna get away with this?
Yeah.
And what made me realize that is that the scene went on forever.
Yeah.
You know, I was.
I've seen that done in movies where get on with it.
Yeah, you know? and yet it was because I was thinking nobody's saving this guy. What's going on? And finally he gets saved, and I'm thinking, oh, the wool was pulled over me.
Yeah. Okay. We mentioned Paul Dano already. Paul Dano was the name of the actor who played the Riddler.
Right.
I immediately thought of him in Prisoners.
Yeah, that was directed by the guy who eventually made
Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah, Denis Villeneuve, right?
My
exactly.
God, what a great movie, but man,
he was in
he's
in one of the greatest movies ever made.
Cowboys and Aliens.
No, There Will Be Blood.
Oh, he's in there. I'll never watch that.
Oh my God!
I know it's good, but I know the guy beats the shit out of his son, and you know what? I don't want to see that.
Oh my God! You got to see that movie to believe it. You see that movie,
Daniel Day-Lewis, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
You want to see that movie. You want to kill Daniel Day-Lewis.
That never disappoints me. Yeah.
A really fun movie.
All right, beautiful aerial shot of the Batman leading people at the end. Beautiful.
You know, that's the thing, because I think that the conclusion of the movie was supposed to be that Batman, even though he's supposed to be a symbol of justice and fear and all this other stuff, he sort of like has to become this, like, you know, well, follow me and I'll lead you into the light. Yeah. And that was a little too heavy for me, but yet I accepted it because it sort of shows that if the Batman is going to be a symbol of hope, it's the direction it's got to take is that somebody can't be afraid of me. I have to let the criminal element be the one that's afraid of me, but not the regular human being, the citizen out there. He's got to have the kid that he can relate to, which he does. The kid is an orphan of the mayor who gets murdered in the building. And so when it's the kid that actually reaches out and takes Batman's hand, we see that. It's a little too heavy-handed, but you know what? I understand. And the fact of the matter is that you have to have purpose for this character known as Bruce Wayne. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. The portrayal of Bruce Wayne and Batman, how convincing was that for you? Because Bruce it's just
Well, it was nice to see what Trent Reznor would be like as Batman, basically. Because like when he first took off the mask, and the good thing is they addressed the fact that he's got the black
the mascara kind of like that. He looked like Priz from Blade Runner. Yeah.
Like, and I thought like Trent Reznor came to mind. So I guess and this says something that even for me it was a little too brooding. It was like almost like Marilyn Manson Generation X kind of a little. Even for me, it seemed a little too much into. I don't think he smiled ever.
No, in fact, Matt Reeves has said that he sort of like, or I think that Robert Pattinson says that he portrayed the character like Kurt Cobain.
Yeah. Okay. And there's a Nirvana song in there too.
Right. So, and yet, I kind of like see it differently, but not so far off from the Kurt Cobain kind of like mystique, because you see, to me, the character that is Bruce Wayne is actually very brooding, and to him, the only armor that he actually has is that of the Batman that would actually like protect him, because he's trying to protect himself while trying to carry on this justice thing. But he came across as, have you ever heard that one song by Pearl Jam? It's called Jeremy. And it goes, Jeremy spoke in class today. And that was based on a kid that before the whole Columbine thing happened, it was based off of a real kid who brought a gun to school, went up to the head of the class and started shooting. Oh boy. So the Robert Pattinson character reminds me of one of those kids that is like very brooding, very emotionally shy, but yet gets bullied all the time, and then finally that kid who gets bullied so much finally like lets go, releases all this anger, and beats up one of those bullies. Yeah. The Batman character came across as, when I'm Bruce Wayne, I am the shy kid where everybody can pick on me because I can't do anything until I become the Batman, and then I will beat the crap out of you. Yeah. So it was like literally I'm looking at the coin, and on one side he will kill me, and the other side I can taunt him because I don't think he can take care of himself. That's what I kind of like. He came across as the portrayal, which is fine, because when he says that, when it's discovered that his mom had mental issues, I'm thinking, well, then that explains his proclivity for wanting to be violent with the people that he wants to be violent with. Because let's face it, he will beat the crap out of you because you beat the crap out of someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's like, well, I mean,
there's already enough damage of being a child and having both your parents killed in front of you.
But that was a portrayal that I don't think I actually ever saw in any other characters of Batman. But you see,
in the Zack Snyder, well, they did in Tim Burton, obviously, and they did in Zack Snyder too. He saw his parents get killed there,
right?
And Christopher Nolan, yeah.
Yes, yeah. And you know what? To be very, very fair, I just appreciated that there was a different portrayal of the Batman. But yet at the same time, I wonder, well, what else could they have done? Because it's very difficult.
Well, that's the problem with modern day entertainment. It's like, let's revisit this. Let's revisit it. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi's going to fight Darth Vader now.
Right, exactly.
And it's like, and it's like the like looking at a show like Batwoman. There's a lot of incredibly bad creators now that are thriving.
Wow.
Who just got the guy who is the main, I don't know if he's the showrunner, but he's one of the main producers of the Lord of the Rings TV show. Okay, so that TV show now is not out yet. The trailer has brought out an army of people who say this is shit. And the guy just got offered a new big deal.
Really?
Yeah, so I mean, it's there is no doubt in my mind that it's going to be garbage.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could just watch any video on it on YouTube, because Amazon owns the license and they paid hundreds of millions of dollars for it. I think the whole season is going to be $600 million or something crazy like that. And I mean, this is another video, so we'll discuss it after this or whatever.
Sure.
But the motivations behind the making of the show is not Tolkien specifically or a good show.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's kind of like you have paid someone to take the source material and to create fan service in the hopes to generate money and a long series for our streaming service.
It's more complicated than that.
It's like a business decision with our imagination as the currency. Wow.
So you have this whole situation which is not aimed at making a good show, a good product.
Yeah.
And then so these people are not, a lot of them are not talented. We're seeing Marvel TV show being made by people who don't like comic books. One guy, and then I'll get back to this because we're getting off on a tangent. But
sure.
This guy is quoted, and this is on YouTube, clipped. The guy said that because he was talking about he's the showrunner for Loki. I don't know if the title is showrunner, but heavily involved in the narrative of Loki.
Mm-hmm.
He said that everything that happened before the show, Loki, meaning that Infinity War, Endgame, all of that stuff, he said all of that in our show, that our show makes that bullshit.
Wow.
And it's like, I remember looking at the box office for Endgame, like I think the day after it came out, it was at $300 million. It
was.
And this guy is saying that that's bullshit.
Yeah,
and that's who's running Hollywood right now.
Yeah, and you know the thing.
And these are the guys that so you take those guys and these guys that are taking old franchises and demolishing them basically.
Yeah, and you know it's kind of like
and they can't make anything new.
Exactly, and that's the whole point. The fact that it really isn't anything new because seriously, if Dune from 1984 had been a hit, seriously a hit,
Yeah.
they would have like done 3 or 4 other Dune movies that would have been out by 1995.
Son of Dune or whatever those books are.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But because it wasn't a hit, and it was our fan service that kept on resurrecting the attention to that movie, it wasn't until like 30 years later that somebody in Hollywood says, you know, everybody's talking about Dune. I mean, that movie was a piece of shit, but you know what? Obviously, so many people are talking about it. Let's make another movie.
And then the sci-fi show the sci-fi show apparently is good.
Right, exactly.
But the
yes.
production values, man, holy cow!
Exactly.
You know, it's a circus.
And I gotta say that I kind of appreciate that they are finally taking this stuff that I love and giving it the budget and the attention that they need and the length that it needs. But yet, I kind of like do see how. Yeah, there's nothing new out there anymore.
No, I mean, the best that's coming out is Dune, in a sense that, granted, it's an existing narrative, but at least they got a good director.
Exactly, you gave it some seriousness.
Yeah, so that's one of the good things. The other thing that I've seen is you could have real good stuff, but it is insanely destructive.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
The girl from Alita.
Oh, I can't remember her actress's name.
I'll put it up on the screen.
Sure.
She did a show called Brand New Cherry Flavor.
Really?
Very good show. Almost excellent. Insanely nihilistic.
Really?
Insane, and that's one of the videos that we'll hopefully do one day. Is
it a European production or an American production?
It's American.
Wow.
Yeah.
America is really good for their violence.
And by nihilistic, I mean, because it's supernatural. I mean just mean spirited, noir to the nth degree. Just like, because have you seen Logan?
Yes, I loved it.
So, like, you know, Logan dies.
Yeah.
Like, Xavier dies needlessly.
Yeah, very needlessly.
He's in a horrible state.
Yeah,
his family that helped him gets wiped out.
Yeah, that's true.
Logan gets killed in a elongated scene where he's tortured and stabbed, and I mean, just like and one of the. So I'm going to discuss that. I'm going to discuss Cherry Flavor. I'm going to discuss Blade Runner 2049 because he finds out he's not the child. Rachel dies.
Yeah.
One of the patterns is one of the things that you see in a lot of Hollywood products is a negative portrayal of a father.
Yeah.
So Decker abandons his family.
Exactly.
He can't touch his daughter at the end.
Exactly.
I mean,
it sort of like goes on to that, right?
Anyway, so I'm on the fence about this new narrative about Catwoman being the daughter of Falcone.
That I think is also part of a like a comic book narrative, so I think it was like transplanted into the script. But you know what? Okay. I kind of appreciated the fact that the Catwoman was given this kind of like a complex relationship, because it's her girlfriend Olga who is killed by the Falcone character, which is why she then goes after Falcone, even though she knows that Falcone is her father, but he's never acknowledged her, which is kind of explains how she's a waitress for him at his clubs or in the Penguin's club, because the Penguin is an associate of Falcone. Yeah. And so she wants to kind of like develop, and have like a relationship with her father who will finally acknowledge her. But when she finds out that no, the guy that you know is your father is the one that killed your girlfriend, it's like, well then I understand why she would go after the guy. Yeah. So I appreciated that, and you know, to be honest with you, I enjoyed the fact that this Catwoman was treated better than the way that she was portrayed in Batman Returns and in the Nolan movies, because they were kind of like just women, hot women in suits. Yeah. But not this one. This was a girl with purpose. Like when she breaks into the Penguins or to the mayor's house, it's because the mayor has the passport. And so her cat burglary is, you know, for the benefit of the people that she loves and cares for. Yeah. But I'm almost certain that it wasn't touched upon, but because she worked for the Penguin probably like hired her because of her burglary skills, and she works for him by stealing from people he wants to steal from.
Yeah.
But I don't think that was touched upon. But that's what I kind of like filled in the blanks about.
Okay.
So I really liked the Catwoman character in this flick. She was fantastic in my opinion.
That mask, man.
Beautiful girl. And you know what I also like? The fact that that was the thing. She has these like little hair, really tiny ponytails that kind of like stick out. And so when she puts the mask on, the mask makes it look like she's got cat ears, which is one of those. Thing. Yeah, I kind of like that.
Christopher Nolan thing, it was just kind of like glasses kind of thing. But
those things were like bifocals.
I think that the mask, like, granted, I think the motivation behind the design is cat burglar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but it's the worst Catwoman mask I've ever seen.
Yeah, there's some design issues on there, but I kind of wonder, you want to be grounded, so you have to like make it look like it's something practical in the real world.
Yeah,
I know it's hard. It's hard to swallow, but either you appreciate it or you kind of like accept it, and I've done both.
Yeah, and I in movies I've seen often where the protagonist is saved, and I'm like, how do I say it? For me, it's got to be done right, and I didn't like the way it was done here.
Wow.
I'm trying to think. They do kind of remedy it because he saves her.
Yeah.
And they're apparently what he put. The serum that he put in him is apparently venom for Bane.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. Yeah. I kind of caught that, which means that maybe Bane is going to show up in whatever sequels they eventually do for this flick. So. Which, by the way, so do you think that this particular Batman, Robert Pattinson, Matt Reeves collaboration, Warner Brothers reboot of the Batman, how many sequels and how long will it go for?
Well, the pattern in Hollywood is trilogy these days, man.
So 10 years, 3 movies?
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is our Batman for a while.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, but apparently Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton are going to be in Flashpoint.
That's right. I can't wait for that. I cannot.
I don't know. First of all, Ezra Miller's an asshole.
Oh my God. Oh, Pascal, I see the torture in your face when you talk like this.
and it's been delayed again.
Oh,
the Flashpoint or Flash movie, whatever, is probably the DC movies that have been delayed the most ever because it's been talked about for years.
I'm actually surprised about that because the Flashpoint comic book gives you the narrative that the movie should follow, even if it's like not the epic battle between all of these DC characters, but at least show it in some maybe small form that you can show. Unlikely, I don't know.
He showed up on a Flash TV show.
He did.
So they this multiverse thing, man.
He was also in the conclusion of the Peacemaker. Yeah, on HBO Max.
Is it just a silhouette thing?
No, actually, he says a line and everything. He talks to Jason Momoa, who's
so he's in full screen.
Yeah, he sure is. Okay. But you see, it's because Warner Brothers right now has got the actor Ezra Miller to be able to do anything right now because Ezra Miller is being given a Flash movie.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, it looks good. I can't wait for it. So Ezra Miller, if I were Ezra Miller, I'd be like, yeah, whatever you want me to do because I'm enjoying myself, or at least I hope he's enjoying himself and he's willing to like be a fan. Be a fan and be like like for the fans to like say, hey, let me ask you a question about being the Flash. I would love to talk about the Flash.
Yeah.
I hope he's that kind of a guy. I don't know if he is.
No,
dude. I wish too good of things from people.
I guess you've missed this, but he is on camera. I think this was in Europe. Attacking a pregnant woman.
I remember hearing about this. I didn't follow up on that, so yeah.
So it's like, so we have, and this goes to show you the inconsistency and idiocy of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Johnny Depp is essentially canceled out of Hollywood.
Yeah,
because of accusations
from his wife.
Who is also. It is documented that she shit on his bed.
Yeah.
And that she attacked him. And she's still employed. The producer or the director of the second Aquaman movie said, no, she's going to be in here.
Yeah.
and which is complete bullshit because she clearly, I mean, I can't support Johnny Depp too much because his hands aren't clean here.
Yeah, of course not.
But clearly she's just as guilty as he is, and Hollywood is siding with her for some ridiculous reason.
Yeah, and you know what?
So Ezra Miller is I don't like that guy either.
Fame and fortune really touches different people so differently that
who knows, man?
Yeah, exactly. If I had money and fame, I really don't know what kind of a person I would be, but I know I would be very different.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to
anybody who can maintain exactly being grounded.
He's centric. He didn't say he was conservative or leftist because you're supposed to be leftist in Hollywood, but he said, you know what? Because the first time that was discussed, like some reporter, it seems, was trying to get him to out himself politically, and he said, you know what? That's a longer conversation that I'm not going to have now.
Exactly.
And then eventually, in another conversation, he said, you know what? You should. I think he said you should dare to be centric. So that's how he put it. You know, so well, good for him. Anyway,
good points, dude.
Okay, we discussed that. And here we go. Here we go again with the Joker. Okay, so anytime the Joker gets into a diatribe, it bores me to tears. I wasn't falling asleep when I saw the movie, but my attention wavered when the Joker started talking. Because when he talked at the end of the Snyder Cut, the Killing Joke, I'm out of there.
Wow.
It's like Pinhead from the Hellraiser movie. When he starts talking bullshit, I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, you know, it's kind of weird, but okay. So here's the thing: and it's amazing that you said Pinhead because in the original conclusion of the movie Freddy vs. Jason, which was a movie about Freddy Krueger fighting Jason Voorhees, the original conclusion was that they both go to hell, and in the middle of them fighting in hell, Pinhead from Hellraiser tries to separate the two apart and say, boys, there's plenty of time for fun.
Where was this?
No, this was originally planned for the movie. It was never done. When I saw the Joker show up at the conclusion of Batman, it felt like that.
Kind
of
shoot in.
Right, shoot in. And I'm thinking, no, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
But this is how dumb of a guy I am too. What would have worked for me was something that would not have flown through anybody's radar. If it had been Joaquin Phoenix, Joker, saying those lines, I would have loved that like you would not believe. I would have been like a little girl. I'd be like, ah! But I know that they wouldn't have gone in that direction. But they went in the direction that I just put in your head about Pinhead being in the conclusion of Freddy.
It's kind of forced in there.
Exactly, and yet that's the one thing that I think didn't work for me. But yet it's a natural progression for the Joker and Batman to cross swords, especially in a new franchise.
Well, the thing is, it's like there's no need to sell us a sequel because everybody knows it. You know?
There you go. Pascal, you just put it beautifully. There's no reason to sell us a sequel, and yet they had to.
The best way that was done was in, I think, the beginning of in Batman Begins. You just see a Joker card.
Exactly. That's
enough.
Really, exactly.
That's enough.
Because you know that there's no doubt about it. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
In this one, it was kind of like, well, we have to show that the Joker's going to show up. Okay, so let's put in a scene.
So that's
like an afterthought.
Kind of thing.
Yes.
So.
Felt kind of like so forced, but still, I'll accept it and appreciate it. You know.
Okay, so the last thing I have on my list is my rating. Well, what's your rating out of 10?
Okay, well, I gotta tell you that out of all of the incarnations of Batman, I think that this one was the masterpiece. And the reason why I say that is because the filmmaker that they gave this property to, Matt Reeves, and his producers and his co-writer, and everybody who literally put the movie together from the cast, this was done so epically, like literally, like studio, they finally said, you know what, okay, here's the Batman property, make it as long as you want, cast the people you want, give it the treatment that you want, we will support it. And that's only because it's like a studio doesn't know what to do with it, so they had to give it to somebody who did know, or at least gave it a try as to making it work. And Matt Reeves, I think, made it work because he's part of our generation where he appreciates detail in a movie, length in a movie, proper casting in a movie, a delivery of certain things. And even if the intent is to make you a detective in a story that is confusing, well, that's film noir. That's like there's plenty of movies that have things that you have realized you have forgiven because the movie was so well put together. Like I know for a fact that I've shown the movie Blade Runner to someone who says, I don't get it. And yet I understand it so epically. This movie I understand it so epically because I've been a fan of movies all my life, and the fact that I saw it properly done, I appreciate it. But yet I can see how it probably goes over some people's heads because they're not part of the same generation of appreciating movies like I am. Mm-hmm. They're comic book and Marvel and DC movie lovers who are part of a generation that came... and I'll put it to you like this. When Blade Runner was made, and Star Trek was made, and Star Wars was made, they had to build the models. Yeah. Now they just put the program in a computer and they make the CGI model.
Well, the more...
Right,
ultra realistic people use both.
Yes. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is that
so much CG now.
I come from the generation, you and I come from the generation where the effects looked fake, but they felt real. And now the people who really are fans of movies are the people who see the visuals and they look real, but they seem fake. Yeah. So it's like,
it's either that or as realistic as it is. You know where the source is
exactly,
anyway. So and you still can't buy it completely.
And I almost feel like the reason why there's a lot of criticism from some of the younger generation people who watch this movie and kind of like they're not appreciating it the way that I appreciate films. But you know what? That's a real like split in the sand that I'm putting. But you know what? That's what makes me explain how much I love this movie compared to somebody who probably says, "Nah, I don't get it," or I've had trouble with it. But the trouble that they have is very minimalistic if you think of the whole realm of how we all really relate to loving a property like Batman. Yeah. Because Batman is fucking kick-ass. I'm glad that I'm living in an age where they're making a Batman movie. Yeah. I lived for a long time when Batman was just a TV show. And years later it became a movie, and I was the kid who was like, I can't wait to see this flick. Yeah. That's how it is.
I mean, Robin Englund from...
Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, he said, because I saw him at Music Box Theater.
Oh, no kidding.
I don't know how long ago. And they replayed the first Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah. And one of the things he said, because he sounded brilliant. I had no idea how smart the guy was. And he said, the older you get, the more you appreciate history.
Exactly.
It certainly can be put into movies and stuff. And last night I just watched The Day the Earth Stood Still. You know?
No kidding. The original.
I can't fucking stand the movie, but I'm like, you know what? I gotta watch this because it's a pillar of science fiction.
Yeah.
And there's no payoff. I mean, I absolutely will give all the praise that it deserves. The same thing goes for the Andromeda Strain. I can't stand the movie, but I watch it at least once a year.
You know, it's kind of weird, but that movie, I mean, that movie is extremely boring to me, but yet it's great to watch. Yeah,
and you could tell it's written by a doctor too.
Like, Michael Crichton. He was a real doctor, and he actually made that movie was a cautionary tale about the plague.
Yeah, okay.
In modern setting.
But So when this new generation gets older, I don't feel that they're going to go back to Sunset Boulevard and all that kind of stuff. You know, there's going to be a 1% that will probably do that if they're raised by actors or something. You know, but anyway, what's your grade?
Okay, I'd say like I said, I think that this is a masterpiece. If I had to give it out of 5 stars, I give it a 5 stars.
Okay, out of 10 out of 10.
Okay, no, out of 10 stars, I would give it a 8.5.
Okay.
Oh yeah, exactly. I think that if it did more for me, I would have given it a 10. Yeah. But I think that it's strong enough to be an 8.5. I think it's just brilliant the way that it is.
Yeah, I think it's weird for me because I think I would give it 8 or 8.5, but I feel 9.5.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
So I like.
I understand what you mean. Yeah. I actually want to like shake the hands of everybody who made this movie. But I almost feel like they were like saying, "Yeah, we tried to do good," and like, "Yeah, you did do good," and it's like, "Yeah, but we could have done better." It's like I kind of feel.
I think I felt discombobulated when it was revealed that the Riddler had a small army of people.
Yeah, minions.
Like, and he created them through the internet. I'm like, are you kidding?
Yeah. Well,
that was too much.
That was a little on the like back end kind of thing, because you see, I think that they should have done a little bit more of the narrative, like because these guys are obviously Proud Boys, like or at least modeled after Proud Boys. Yeah. So if that was the emphasis, then they should have actually had a narrative go throughout the story. And so occasionally, I think maybe you see it like when Bruce Wayne has that like kind of like conversation a little bit with that one dude at the funeral who says, "Yeah, it's just not a bunch of rich fucks, another rich fuck," So obviously you see that, and then you see that guy in the conclusion of the movie. Okay. But I think that throughout the rest of the movie, there's like in the background, like you see a little ticker tape in like a TV screen where it says, people like gangs doing kind of thing, and so you kind of think that they're talking about those minions. But you don't really get that until you kind of like have to fill in the blanks for yourself. Yeah. And you wonder, did I miss something where the narrative was throughout the movie and I didn't catch it? Maybe that's what it is. I have to see the movie again. I only saw it once. But I kind of like feel like, it must have been throughout the movie. I just didn't catch it.
There's too much of a disconnection between the Riddler and guess what? I have an army.
Exactly. I did. That was a little bit of a twist.
I'm not looking for like, because in Christopher Nolan, The Dark Knight, I mean, it's very detailed. I guess the word is as far as how the Joker took over.
Sure.
I'm not looking for anything that kind of quote unquote organized, but something in between. Because the few guys on top shooting the mayor, that almost felt like it came out of nowhere because the Riddler was incarcerated.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. When I saw that, I was like, oh, wow, there's a little bit of a twist, which I didn't expect. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, good. They pulled the wool over my head. I love this. Yeah. Did you know that there is going to be a it's called Batman the Caped Crusader. I think it's going to be a TV show that will be streamed.
Okay.
And
is that animated or is it?
Actually, I think it's going to be a live show.
Okay.
And here's an idea that I think, I don't know, I want to get your opinion on. So Warner Brothers, they obviously own Batman. They obviously have the property and they can present as many versions of it that they want. I say, why don't they, Warner Brothers, put some money and make an original streaming movie? And I swear to God, if this movie were to be produced, I'd watch it 10 times. Batman versus Predator. They should make a movie version for streaming of that comic book. We would accept it because we accept the Batman character and we already accept the Predator character. And in the comic books, when they meet, that's something that there was a fan film called. I think it was called Dead
Alien was in there too.
Yeah, exactly.
Batman something.
I think it was called Dead End. Yeah. Batman Dead End.
That's what it was. Yeah.
When I saw that, I was like, "Holy fucking shit! That's what we need." Yeah. And yet Warner Brothers, who owns this and owns the rights, they could do this, but they're basically saying, "We're getting a movie made." Yes, but why don't you?
Warner Brothers own Predator?
I don't know, but if they did, they obviously can like get the rights to it.
That might be Fox.
Maybe
I don't. It is Fox because they own Alien.
But you see, with a little negotiation, I think that. I mean, think about it. Think of the money they can generate just on that title alone. It would be fantastic.
The problem is,
there's always a problem. Yeah, I know.
Because Alien and Predator are being thrown on Hulu.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So they're not.
Yeah, they can protect their property, but I swear to God.
But by that means like it's a smaller budget, so it's a smaller kind of production, and it's almost as if you were putting that on TNT. To me,
yeah, true.
But because Hulu is good for like
I just recently saw their Tommy and Pam miniseries, and they're really good at that. Okay. They're really good at making limited series shows.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I don't want major franchises on Hulu.
Oh, I don't know. I'm just, once again, it's because there's no original ideas out there, and I can actually content for those. And services. I can actually just imagine the money and the interest that it would generate if something like this were made. But yet, at the same time, I'm one of these guys that says, yeah, because there's no new stories out there, let's just go ahead and use these old stories. But only because I know that people would watch it. Yeah. So I probably am like a studio executive. I'd be like, no, don't think of nothing original. Let's just grab something we already own and let's just make a movie of it. Yeah. Oh. All right. Oh, I'm not even one of these guys, but yet I know. I understand.
That sucks, man. Anyway, so all right. So thanks for discussing this with me,
Pascal. Thank you very much for having me. This was fun. I enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, this was cool, man. I like this.
My God!
I hope to create a good ending.
There's a lot of work for you here, but I know because I've seen your review for Dune, and every now and then the scenes would switch when you had to like.
Anytime somebody mentions anything, I have to put a reference to it. Like I don't know how many times Ernest mentioned Cherry 2000, and I'm like, what are you talking about that for? But I gotta find.
I know that particular movie. When I heard him talking about it, I was like, wow, that's a real stretch. But okay, thank you very much. I was waiting for one of you guys to mention a movie called Silent Running. That's how good the vibe was between you. You did mention it.
I believe I did.
Oh my God, with the Dune review?
I can't remember.
I can't remember
because I just watched it last year. So again.
That is one of those. That is once again. I think that if somebody was smart out there, they would see that movie and say, "Let's make another movie of it, another version of it," because the technology is actually there to actually make it into
a preachy movie. So
very preachy, very environmentally. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It would be one of those movies that I would love to watch because it talks about our days and our. Unfortunately, I think our civilization, the days of our civilization, are numbered. We are literally in the middle of what's going to happen. I think that there will be a World War III. I don't know how big it's gonna be, but dude, I wonder if we're all living in borrowed time right now.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm probably going to try and enjoy as much of life as possible.
Yeah.
Because I swear to God, I don't know how long we have.
Yeah.
Terrible. But yet I also feel like I'm going to live another 50 years. Okay. So there's that hope out there. Okay. I'm following Batman through the, with the flare on his head.
Okay, cool. So, all right. So thanks everybody for listening. And let me see. I believe my next video is going to be Evangelion with my friend Miguel's son. At least that's what the plan is for now. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you at the next video.